Welcome everyone to the grand final of the 2020 Oak Cup. My name is Florencia Gadea and I have the honor today to be the chairperson and timekeeper for today's debate. So the motion for the debate is this House, as the international community, would hold China accountable for the COVID-19 pandemic. So let me start by introducing you to the teams. For the side of the proposition, we have Escuela Martín Buber from the autonomous city of Buenos Aires, with the order of speakers being Nicole Sielecki as the first speaker, Ian Sang as the second speaker, Ilan Levy as the third speaker, and Ian Sang will be giving the reply speech. And for the opposition, we have here today St. Catherine Moreland School, Tortuguitas from Pilar, Buenos Aires, with the order of speakers being Marcos Lousao as the first speaker, Lucia Ferreira as the second speaker, Milagros Miguel as the third speaker, and Lucia will be giving the reply speech. Today, we have a very special panel of judges coming from all around the world. First, we've got Patrick Cooper from Hong Kong, Raimundo Izaguirre from Chile, Kithmina Hughes from Sri Lanka, Anne-Sophie Saitekis from Germany, and Anastasia Stupar from Croatia as chief adjudicator of the panel. Let's have a big round of applause for the teams and the panel. Now, before moving on to the rules, I would like to invite each of the judges to say a few words to present themselves, given that we are enlightened by your presence here today. First, I would like to invite Patrick Cooper from Hong Kong.
Hello, everyone. I'm Patrick Cooper. I'm from Peru, but currently residing in Hong Kong. I've been a debater, judge, and coach for WSCC, and I was judging the Spanish final yesterday. So I'm very happy to be very honored to be invited here today.
Thank you, Patrick. I now invite Raimundo from Chile to say a few words.
Hey everyone, I'm Raimundo. I'm a student here in Chile. I've been a debater, coach, and judge at WSCC for 6 years now, and I'm very glad to be here. Hope to see a great debate.
Thank you. I now invite Kithmina.
Hi everyone, I'm Kithmina from Sri Lanka, and I'm also the current coach for Team Sri Lanka at WSDC. I'm very honored to be here, and all the very best to both teams, and congratulations on making it to the grand finals.
Thank you very much. I now invite Anne-Sophie.
Hi everyone, I'm Anne-Sophie from Germany, but I live in the Netherlands right now. I've also been involved in debating for 8 years and for the last 5 years as a judge for WSDC. Good luck for the teams.
Thank you. I now invite lastly Anastasia, who will be the chief adjudicator.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anastasia, and I have been coaching / judging in the World Schools format for about, give or take, 10 years now. I've also been a coach for Team Croatia for several years, and I am from Croatia and work for Croatian Debate Society. That's my background.
Thank you for your words. I will now be moving on to the rules of collectivity that will be taken into account during the whole debate. So for starters, debaters should have their cameras on during the whole debate. And remember that no communication between speakers nor coaches is allowed during the debate. And also debaters cannot look things up on the internet nor use their phones while they are debating. So bearing in mind the possibility of connectivity issues, if a student drops out due to poor connectivity issues during the speeches of other debaters, the debate will proceed without such students until he or she reconnects. If a student drops out due to poor connectivity issues while delivering a speech, the judge will wait for 5 minutes for the debater to return to the meeting, and the debater will continue where he or she left off. If a speaker does not reconnect within such 5 minutes, the judge will take the effectively delivered part of the speech into account and award points accordingly. Now, if a student drops out due to poor connectivity issues when he or she is about to deliver a speech, the judge will wait for 5 minutes for the debater to reconnect. If after such time the speaker does not reconnect, one of the other 2 members of the team will have to deliver it, and the judge will evaluate it for the team score and result of the debate. But the disconnected speaker will not receive individual points. Let me remind you that if a team violates the rules, the judge will issue a warning. If such a violation continues, he or she will be allowed to apply the necessary sanction, including but not limited to the disqualification of the team in question. Now, regarding timekeeping, I will clap once on the minutes that refers to points of information, which are minute 1 and minute 7, and twice in the last minute, which is minute 8. However, I strongly urge you to please time yourselves and others so that you know when to make POIs to other speakers, and also keep watch of your own time while you're delivering your own speech. So without further ado, I now invite the first speaker for the proposition, Nicole Sielecki, to give out her speech.
The best time to demand a response from China would have been in February. Now, it's the second best time, and this time, we can't fail again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I remember the motion before us today, that is, this House as an international community would hold China accountable for the COVID-19 pandemic. So I will go ahead and start with the definitions. We define international community as the 193 members of the UN and hold China accountable for the COVID-19 pandemic, as sign a UN resolution declaring China as responsible for the outbreak of the coronavirus. Saying that, we want to clarify that this is not a debate on whether it's actually possible to sanction China, but on whether as international community we should do it. Also, we want to clarify that the reason we are debating this and the reason why China is being sanctioned is not because of the management of the countries that were affected by them, but because of the reason of the coronavirus spreading by China. Saying that, I will pass to the status quo. We're debating this because we're still experiencing the effects of the coronavirus, which started in China and caused a pandemic for a while. Although the international community is certain of its province, China has lied to the WHO or to the WHO with no measures taken against them. Saying that, today we will prove firstly that China is responsible for the virus, secondly that Chinese are responsible for the epidemic turning into a pandemic, and thirdly that holding China accountable will bring more good than harm to the international community. Now, with that said, I will go straight forward to the model. Today, the UN will sign an emergency resolution saying that, firstly, China is to blame for the outbreak of the virus and its transformation into a pandemic. Secondly, that China should pay for the 30 countries with the highest number of infected people in form of healthcare aid products, and that China has to accept the entrance of a team of health officials who will present a monthly report of the conditions of the markets, not being said that Chinese exports will have added tariffs until they accept to compensate the countries. But this won't be necessary because China would be benefited by this. Saying that, our three arguments today will be, first, upside it again, second, an East Side story, and thirdly, wake me up when September ends. So starting with my first argument, upside it again, and my first layer, the beginning of the end. So this pandemic started in the human seafood market in Wuhan when patient zero was declared November 19th of 2019. But this far from being the first time that China experiences viruses all over its country, especially in the city market, and then spreading throughout the world. Like, for example, with the SARS in 1967 or the Asiatic flu in 2004, we ask ourselves why so many viruses have started in these city markets. Because each major city, each major city in China has city markets where captured animals, alive or dead, are sold for food or other purposes, like, for example, traditional Chinese medicine. But ladies and gentlemen, the problem here is not the market itself, because it's the culture of China. The problem here is the conditions that the government is giving to these markets. The problem here is not the market itself, but the conditions, the sanitary conditions that they have. And that said, we also need to clarify that this is a perfect storm for the transmission of these viruses, like, for example, the COVID-19. And we also need to take into account the wet markets, where animals are sold alive or dead, like, for example, weird animals and weird species, like, for example, snakes or wolves. And the problem with this, again, is not the markets, ladies and gentlemen, but the fact that these animals are kept in weird ecosystems in which they do not belong, and where their substances are kept together, and they're combining these substances and they're passing them to other humans. That should not happen. So these conditions and the viruses combined let us know that this is reasonable to think the Chinese government knew the public threat that this mean, and either way didn't do anything about it. So now I will pass to my second layer of analysis, a new beginning. With our first layer understood, we need to clarify why this outbreak in November could have been prevented. First, but it wasn't. First, the Chinese government failed when taking measures to prevent a new outbreak in these markets, knowing the history with the viruses. Also, they failed on preventing it from spreading through the world and Wuhan and China on itself, and they are still failing on regulating the market because there is no will, ladies and gentlemen, to do it. That is why they haven't done it since 1967.
Point of information.
Yes, please.
Are you aware that even though COVID-19 first appeared in China, it does not mean that the virus originally originated in there? In fact, historically,
all the fact that we have already gave since 1967 and all the sanitary conditions that are not being carried out in China is not enough to say that China was responsible for making it in the first time. Taking into account the SARS and the Asiatic flu and all their history with other viruses, it is rational to think that China already knew the threats of this. So it is also important to know that it is important to take them accountable because it's the only way to make sure they implement these protocols, and it's the only way to make them realize how harmful they are for society. So now, going to my second argument, an East-side story, and my first layer of analysis, consequences of looking away. So China is not only responsible for making this virus an epidemic and actually afterwards turning into pandemic, but also they have turning into pandemic, as I said before. But this is because this epidemic has been happening, as I said before, since 1967, ladies and gentlemen, affecting all the world. But back then, we could say that maybe China was not responsible for making this epidemic a pandemic afterwards. But nowadays, with globalization and industrialization, I think with China, that is one of the countries that is most well known for these concepts, we cannot say that China is not responsible for these pandemics. They have been exchanging, no, thank you. They have been exchanging products and people throughout this time. So we cannot say that China is not responsible for exchanging this virus throughout the world. So with that said, what we ask ourselves, why did China not prevent this outbreak from spreading throughout the world? And if China is actually responsible for this pandemic? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, China, it is responsible for this pandemic. First, the government not only began preventing their citizens from spreading this virus worldwide on March, while the virus began in November, and some people think that in August even. But according to the traffic index, the density inside China, was in at 10% on March, while internationally it was in at 60%, saying that they didn't even close their borders when they knew that this was a public threat and they knew the existence of this virus, but even though they didn't close their borders. So now going to my second point, their timing also shows a negligence on their course of action, because nationally and internationally, they notify their people too late. They notify their people on December the 30th, almost 2 months later, when this virus was detected. When this virus began on November or August, they notified their people on December the 30th, letting it spread through all the world and through its country. It wasn't until China revealed the nature of this virus that the WHO could actually know it. But when they notified, they also lied to the WHO of how this was carried out and told them that it was not harmful for people, and still we're here talking by internet. And now going to my second layer of analysis, an East-side story, and my second layer of analysis, no more blind eyes. So therefore, with all that has been said, Chinese government has been negligent on not communicating the word and nature of this virus, and still connecting other countries with this virus. So how is holding them accountable the solutions for this negligence in China? First, by doing so, we would be transferring China's sense of responsibility in change of these behaviors, and we would impose a new precedent of facts of negligence that would affect the other words and increasing the chances of a proper notification in the future. So we have to remember that if you want to appease, you bring everything but peace. Thank you very much.
Time was 8:22. Are the judges ready? I now invite the first speaker for the opposition, Marcos Luzao, to give out his speech.
Thank you. Everyone is responsible and no one is to blame. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Marco Lusso, and I'm the first speaker of the opposition team. Let me remind you the motion before us today. This House, as the international community, will hold China accountable for the COVID-19 pandemic. We agree with the definitions given by the proposition team, but we first want to clarify some things. For example, that the main goal of the international community is to collectively work for international issues, to solve international issues, and that holding accountable a country is considered them fully responsible. And that China is not the government, but the country as a whole, that includes the peoples, institutions, among many other actions. So in order for the propositions to win this debate, they will have to prove that China is fully responsible for any consequences linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. Other countries did not hinder nor aggravated the situations, and they were victims of China's poor handling of the pandemic. And that holding China accountable would be beneficial for the international community as a whole and would be the best solution in the long run and would not challenge the well-being of the Chinese population and other populations as well. As the opposition team, we would like to remind your objective being that casting reasonable doubts, thank you, about China's responsibility of the current pandemic. In order to do so, we will prove that it was not feasible for China or any country to predict and anticipate the consequences of the pandemic or know the possible extent of the spread, that blaming and holding China accountable for the COVID-19 pandemic is an easy excuse for politicians and authorities to wash their hands while harming and creating a stigma on the Asian and Chinese population. And finally, that due to the fact of the pandemic is a global issue, every country's response affected the situation. So I will deliver our first two arguments called "It was really an invisible enemy" and "The new systematic pandemic," while our second speaker will develop the last argument, "Where's the closest way out?" But now I will first start by refuting some of the things that the proposition team proposed. First, they said that they want to sign an agreement by the UN, but for the UN to take measures such as this, debate and resolutions should be drafted and applied. So this would allow other countries to interfere. So it would take a lot of time. And here we're trying to say if we're going to put the blame on them. No, thank you. Also, by limiting ourselves to discuss the spread and not on the management, we're ignoring key things that went wrong and creating the issue in many other countries and any other that are blaming China right now, such as the United States, that at first did not make mandatory their use of masks. Yes, accepted.
Do you understand that we're sanctioning China because of their actions from November 2019 to all the way to March when the virus originated, the epidemic started, and then it turned to a pandemic, not because of the handling in the posterior part of 2020?
Well, but everything needs to be taken into account because we cannot analyze just one part because the pandemic is still going on and consequences are evident now because development is decreasing, people are still dying. So we cannot just analyze the origination of the virus, but everything that concerns the pandemic, because the pandemic did not stop on March, it started, and that needs to be reminded to the proposition team. Also, they mentioned globalization, but yet they ignore that the most effective solutions for a globalized world are conjoint solutions. No, thank you. They should be together in order to work for international solutions that will help all countries, because let's remind you that that's the objective of the international community. Also, they say that they notified in December 30th, but they did that because they were not sure if it was a new disease or if it could have been mistaken with another flu. Because let me remind you that, which I want to talk about in my first argument.
Before you continue.
No, thank you. That they first didn't know if it would be transmitted to people, so it shows that they were not sure about what it was. And they also mentioned some conspiracy theories and where it was originated, but with that would be treated for entertainment, but is that a reason enough to make a country accountable? So now I'm going to move on with our first argument. It was really an invisible enemy. No one could have seen the pandemic. People were not educated about it, how to prevent it, the measures, and many other things related to that. There were more than 10 years without any of it. So while development, technology, they all improved and chances decreased. However, it happened and it shocked China and then the world. Yes, it shocked China because it was unpredictable and unknown. When it was discovered,
Point of information.
No, thank you. No one was sure about anything. For example, it took a lot of time just to discover that the virus was transmitted through people. No, thank you. Clearly demonstrates that the investigation was needed throughout the process of the spread. Scientists that dedicated their entire lives to study and understand these situations were overwhelmed by uncertainty as well. No, thank you. So was the proposition really expecting that the government of China suddenly realized that a pandemic that would stop the entire world was about to happen? It is nonsense to believe that. Even the WHO, the global organization that works for health and to prevent these situations, had several problems in the prevention and many other things.
Before you continue,
yes.
but the WHO has been lately advised of the nature of the virus in mid-March when it has turned into a pandemic.
No, let me tell you that they were notified in January and they started working with China there then. So, and now I'm going to mention what some of the things they said in January. But first, for example, they thought that it would not spread worldwide to be considered a pandemic, but it rapidly changed. And they were full of contradictions. At first, nobody that was healthy needed to use a mask, but then it changed to that everyone should wear them. So
that point,
it's clear. No, thank you. It's clear that there were many contradictions and missed points that they had as well. And they are the World Health Organization. Also, on January 23rd, Tedros, the president of the WHO, said that it was early to declare a public health emergency of international concern. However, that was one of the main reasons why it spread so quickly through Europe, Asia, and then it came to South America in March. No, once again, there was no clear information of any source. So why is China fully responsible for all those mistakes as well? The proposition is trying to blame an entire country for global uncertainty, only because it appeared there. Team proposition is avoiding the fact that we were all unprepared to such an unknown threat as the coronavirus. Now I'm going to move on to my second argument, the new systematic pandemic. The international community wants to blame China for the global pandemic. At least that is what the proposition is proposing us today. But holding China accountable is not just the name, the government, but everything it concerns, including the people, institutions, organizations. How are we going to blame the people? How are we going to openly introduce systematic discrimination? Because people should not suffer the consequences. What the proposition is bringing up today would only cause more damage and go against the main goal of the international community, to collectively work for solutions. Isn't quite ironic to be looking for someone to blame instead of searching for collective solutions for a global issue, because that needs to be reminded. It's a global issue that all countries had responsibility and all countries made mistakes. It is certainly a way of diminishing the problem at hand.
Before you continue.
No, what the proposition brings to the table, it's a mere excuse to the problems through blaming a nation that was as surprised as any other, while also making the situation more difficult for Chinese people. It definitely would increase systematic discrimination of Asian people, because, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot avoid the elephant in the room, the consequences, because there will be. Blaming people from a country for more than 1 million deaths come with severe effects. A stigma will harass Chinese population economically, socially, culturally, and in many other aspects of their lives. Let's suppose a hypothetical situation. People that lost everything due to the pandemic, believing it's China's fault. It would be very naive to think that they would not treat Chinese people in a derogatory manner, and it would have consequences in their lives. So we should ask ourselves, acknowledging our first argument on how unpredictable it was, even for the WHO. Do innocent people deserve to be harmed because of a global disease that could have happened in almost all countries? Why would common citizens be the ones aimed by this new threat proposed? The same will happen with the country as a whole. So we need to look for solutions and not excuses by blaming someone. For all these reasons, we believe that the opposition team should and will win. Thank you very much.
Time was 8 minutes and 17 seconds. Are the judges ready? Okay. I now invite the second speaker for the proposition, Ian Sang, to give out his speech.
And from a virus that originated in Wuhan due to Chinese failure in preventing it and failure in containing it and irresponsibility with the international community rose an imbalance of power in the international community that we must fix as soon as possible for everybody's sake. The proposition today will continue to prove to you three main things. A, that China is responsible for the outbreak of the coronavirus epidemic inside China. Second, that Chinese negligence was the thing that led to it becoming a pandemic in the first place, therefore having all the devastating consequences that all of us know that the coronavirus had. And thirdly and lastly, that holding Beijing accountable will bring more harm than good to the international community as a whole. In order to continue proving this, I have decided to divide my speech into three main parts. First, some clarifications, then the development of the refutations of everything that has been said so far by the side of the opposition into three main points. A, back to basics on the origins of the epidemic. Second, looking away on how containment worked and it turned into a pandemic. And third, don't cry for me, China, on the consequences of censoring the Chinese for the Chinese people. Then I'll develop the third argument called Wake Me Up When September Ends, which will talk about how holding China accountable will shift international relations for the sake of the international community. Now, beginning with the clarifications, with no further ado, I would like to say that we, ladies and gentlemen, as my first speaker told you, are sanctioning China because of their actions from November 2019, as I said in my point of information, all the way to March. That's when the virus originated in China. That's when the epidemic spread to China, and that's why the pandemic was generated in the first place. It is ridiculous to blame them for the policies. No, thank you, for the policies taken by each leader, because China had nothing to do with it, but it had to do with the fact that they were struck by surprise because of the virus that originated in China. They failed to contain and failed to advise properly. No, thank you to the international community, and that is why we're sanctioning China, not because of the policies taken by Donald Trump asking his people to drink bleach. China has nothing to do with that. On a second point, we tell you that there's uncertainty in this debate. There are going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of misinformation, precisely because the Chinese are not allowing the people and the international community to investigate, which is not the behavior of something that is, let's say, innocent. Now, beginning with the first point of refutation, back to basics, from the very beginning, they told us that the virus did not originate in China. This is refuted clearly with the thing that I just said. We're not going to hear conspiracy theories today, but I don't blame the opposition. I blame the government that is not allowing Australia and Canada, who suggested to investigate China and apply the no, thank you, and allow and did not allow to investigate or to know what really happened in Wuhan, which is not precisely innocent behavior, ladies and gentlemen. Why do we say that the virus originated in China? Because it is the country that has hundreds of thousands of these markets where feces of pangolins and bats are put together with thousands of humans that go to buy things, and that's how virus originate and spread rapidly. No, thank you. And they also have a history and a precedent of originating hundreds of viruses all the way from 1950. No, thank you. All the way from 1957 to 2004 to the SARS. And the opposition cannot come today and tell us, oh, there was not a pandemic for 10 years. There had time all the way from when they started knowing that viruses could happen in 1957, all the way to 2018 to prepare these markets and to regulate them. Then they tell us the pandemic still has effects today, but that's not the focus of the debate, ladies and gentlemen. They're just trying to bring white noise and distract us from the fact that from November to March, the Chinese, no, thank you, acted in a negligent way, and they are responsible partly for the beginning of the consequences that were devastating to many countries. Now, on the second point of refutations about negligence, they tell us that China was uncertain and it could have never known what happened, that China was shocked. This denies the point of precedent that we talked about and how scientifically it was proven that these markets were a hub and the perfect storm for virus to originate, as my first speaker told you. Then, no, thank you. Then we also have all their acts of negligence and they're failing to acknowledge. We see that they were going through the Chinese New Year where billions of travels, no, thank you, all the way to the West happened, and the China failed to close its border the entire January, and that was when all the passengers were trying to meet their families. It's not the people's fault, of course. It's the government that did not shut down the flights, the international flights, when they knew there was a virus harming hundreds of thousands inside the country, and it spread all throughout the international countries and the rest of the world, and they stopped and halted domestic flights. If that's not negligence with the international community, then I don't know what really is. Then they tell us that scientists, no, thank you, scientists give their lives to discover this, and no one could have known. Yes, China has censored and shut down the social media of the 7 doctors from Wuhan that tried to warn the world in December, ladies and gentlemen. China silenced the international community and told them not to communicate and to divulge the information to the entire world. And this is why, for this kind of behavior, we need to hold them accountable so that we have a precedent and it never happens again. Then on the last point of refutation regarding no thank you, the Chinese people, they tell us that this is going to enhance discrimination. This is bad for China. We see that this discrimination is happening under the status quo, where China is finger pointing to other countries like poor Netherlands or Chile, which had nothing to do with the virus. They only exported fish to the country. We see that this narrative comes because China does not take the responsibility and the blame for what happened. This is a way for China to turn over the page and say, we're responsible broker, we know what we did, we're sorry for the mistakes, here we have a compensation in our products to help you mitigate the effects of the pandemic, therefore improving the images of China, improving trade, and improving the lives of the citizens that are now being blamed for the errors of the government. Now, in order to begin with the third argument, wake me up when September said, I have 2 layers of analysis for you. A, broken balance, and B, a new horizon. This argument as a whole is going to prove to you, ladies and gentlemen, that holding China accountable will help restore a lost balance of power that will benefit all, yes, all, including China, the members of the international community. So 2020 has not been equal or the same for all countries. Some are having their Grand Oak Cup finals virtually, and some others are having 4 parties of 40,000 people back in Wuhan in the epicenter of the virus. So China has seen huge economic, political, and military growth in this year. They have taken, in political terms, full advantage of the weakened position in the void left by Western countries were struggling to cover the pandemic, and they have taken bolder steps in terms of foreign policy, increased their influence, increased trade, and increased presence in Latin America and in Africa. They have also seen rapid economic recovery, ladies and gentlemen. China is the only power that is estimated to grow at 5% in this year, while, for example, the GDP of the UK is estimated to be falling more than 20%, ladies and gentlemen. China even had the resources and the political leverage to build naval bases in the South China Sea, of course, against international law, and also pressuring Taiwan and Hong Kong. Yes, please, I will accept your point now.
But is the proposition aware that the economy of China was also damaged by the pandemic?
I understand your point, but we're precisely saying two things. First of all, that China has seen rapid recovery in this year, and Western economies have been crippled by the virus that struck them by surprise. And secondly, this is also going to benefit the economy of China. Why? Because of the image that is going to be improved. I'm going to explain this later, but they're going to trade more, they're going to improve their image, have better trade links, have more competition, stronger trade counterparts, also benefiting the Chinese economy. So as I was saying, they even had the resources to increase their military presence in many countries against international law. So in contrast, the West is very crippled, going through a political crisis, an economic crisis, GDPs shrinking, unemployment in records, and a political crisis, partly because you had elections during coronavirus pandemic. So given the context, our plan is both something that China can afford and that they should do, given that they have grown at the expense of Western power. Now we ask you, what will be the consequences of this sanction in the international community? A, restoring the balance of power that has been lost by putting a stop to political and economic growth of China during 2020, and by strengthening and by strengthening all other countries by helping them mitigate the effects of the pandemic with the healthcare products that China would give. Most crucially, we would also be benefiting China because we, as I said before, would be improving their image and showing that they acknowledge the mistakes, recognize what they have done, they're showing that they care, they're showing that they're honest broker of world order, they care for the well-being, and they're giving aid to other countries to help recover in order for them to increase their own trade, increase their diplomacy, and increase their image that they are in need for in order to destroy the narrative that China is some evil guy that is trying to bully the countries of the world. We would also strengthen trade links, as I said before. So holding China accountable is beneficial for all members of the international community. And ladies and gentlemen, the proposition believes that if you appease, you bring everything but peace. Thank you very much.
Time was 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Are the judges ready? I now invite the second speaker for the opposition, Lucia Ferreira, to give out her speech.
Thank you very much. Everyone is responsible and no one is to blame. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me remind you the motion before us today is this House, as the international community, would hold China accountable for the COVID-19 pandemic. I will deliver the third argument titled, Where's the Closest Way Out?, where I will further cast doubt on the motion by presenting examples that demonstrate how if the motion were to stand, other countries that also played an essential role during the course of the pandemic will be guiltless. And I will prove why, as an international community, we should not hold China fully responsible for the situation in which the world finds itself. However, before I come to my own arguments, let me remind you of the ones proposed by the first speaker of the opposition team. In his first argument titled, It was really an invisible enemy, he evidenced that no country was prepared to fight this battle. Team proposition is drawing attention to China's management strategies so as to avoid the fact that we were all unprepared for this unknown threat. Furthermore, in his second argument titled, The New Systematic Pandemic,
Point of information.
he pointed out the consequences, no thank you, that this proposition would have and how we should focus our attention on solving this as a global problem and avoid creating further xenophobia on the Asian population. I will continue with our case in America. No, thank you. But before that, there are some things about the second speaker of the proposition team that need to be addressed. You mentioned conspiracy theories, and yet your first speaker was unable to trace her sources on how you're sure that the virus originated in there. Is the proposition team completely unaware that source tracing hasn't been carried out, and that we can discuss these conspiracy theories as a form of entertainment, but are these reasons enough to really make a country accountable? The proposition claims that the historical context allows us for us to infer that the virus, no thank you, originated from China, where in fact there is no proof that that is the case. And the proposition team is trying to limit this debate by focusing only on 3 months of a pandemic that lasted more than 8 months. I'll take your point now.
There's a difference between information that has been confirmed by the Chinese government and the World Health Organization and throwing out contradictory theories out of some study. There's no more information because the Chinese are not allowing for us to investigate.
I take your
point.
I take your point. But we cannot accuse a country of creating this virus or originating there when there is in fact no evidence that proves this. With no further ado, I'll open my argument. Before you start pointing fingers, make sure your hands are clean. The proposition team believes that holding China accountable for the pandemic is an adequate response from the international community. However, we believe it acts more as an escape, as a cover-up, and especially as an excuse for authorities and people in power who seek to shift the blame. As stated in the definitions, a pandemic involves the whole wide world. So why are we treating this, no thank you, not as a global issue as we should? We have to take this as what it is, a matter of global importance where we collectively work to solve and change the circumstances. We can thus agree that the pandemic was influenced not only by China, but also by every single one of us. Let's take the case of the US, where former President Donald Trump downplayed. I'll take your point in a minute. The President Donald Trump downplayed in multiple occasions the severity and impact of the pandemic. And indeed, he even claimed that the virus would go very quickly when in fact that there was no evidence then nor now that that was the case. I'll take your point.
How exactly was, for example, the Italian government supposed to know that the surprise virus was going to come by surprise because the Chinese did not shut down flights in the lunar year where millions traveled to Europe?
However, the Chinese government managed the situation in the way they thought best and addressed and informed the world when they had the adequate information. If they would have said it with no real information and evidence to the world, they would be creating fear without a proper response. Another key example to analyze is Jair Bolsonaro, president of Brazil, who also frequently trivialized the pandemic by supporting anti-lockdown protests and flouting social distancing rules. No response is in fact a response, and it is a powerful one. However, let's look at an opposite example. Let's take the case of Argentina, where a mandatory lockdown was imposed, and in some provinces it lasted over 7 months. However, regardless of these precautionary measures taken by the government, Argentina's officials' numbers still reported more than 1.37 million
Precisely.
cases. No, thank you. On the other hand, while millions across the world were confined to their homes, offices and businesses were shut, economies were on the verge of collapse, some countries like Sweden and South Korea did not impose a lockdown-like mandate, but rather relied slowing down the process of infection on social distancing measures of the people. The data I'm bringing to the debate does not only support and strengthen the argument proposed by our first speaker, but it also shows that no one, not even China, had a step-by-step recipe to solve the problem. Each country had a different approach to the issue, and some health experts might agree or disagree with this and question up to what extent these measures contributed or not to the pandemic. We can even wonder and discuss which government's leadership was more effective.
Point of information.
Every single decision taken by each administration of each government, every single decision we as individuals took during the course of the pandemic provided a grain of salt to the collective outcome. The bottom line here is that we're all substantially responsible for the situation. Is it really our place to hold China accountable? We are not the ones who should judge China for the way in which they manage the situation when this country has behaved like each of the other countries, sharing the available information at the time it seemed adequate and tackling the situation in the way they thought best. To make only one country responsible for an issue that is global We start seeing people in power benefiting because they don't want to face that the wrong deeds had consequences as well. We all
Point of information.
played our part in the pandemic. In a minute, we have to accept the responsibility of our actions, and we have to be accountable for our results, and we should all take ownership of our mistakes.
You
For all
are
of
in
these
fact
reasons- Yes, I'll take your point. I'll take your point.
you are in fact aware that you accepted our definitions in which we said that we're sanctioning China because of what happened from November all the way to March.
Yes, and I claimed that you're limiting the debate to 3 months when this pandemic lasted over 8 months. The debate is when you hold a country accountable for a situation, you have to bear in mind everything that that situation implied. The COVID-19 pandemic is not the COVID-19 pandemic from the first case to March, because that is limiting, and that you cannot hold accountable a country for what it did in a period of 3 months. So we should all have to be accountable for what we did, take responsibilities for our actions, and blaming only one country when we all played our part is irresponsible coming from the international community, and we should not allow for people in power to shift the blame. For all of these reasons and the ones mentioned before, we believe the motion should fall and the opposition team should and will win. Thank you very much.
Time was 7 minutes and 57 seconds. Judges ready? I now invite the third speaker for the proposition, Ilan Levy, to give out his speech.
Don't touch your face, stay home, use a face mask, social distance. China touched her face, didn't stay home, used a face mask to cover the responsibility, but still socially distanced from the international community. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of this House. I'm the third speaker for the proposition today. And firstly, I am going to tell you what we have to prove today, what we already proved today, and afterwards I'm going to make some clarifications and point out 3 points of clash. We proved today that China is responsible for the outbreak of the coronavirus, the Chinese are responsible for the epidemic turning into a pandemic, and that holding China accountable will do more good than harm to the international community. So some clarifications first. Opposition is trying to cast reasonable doubt out of something we are not debating due to the fact that they accepted our definitions, and we find that we are debating the responsibility from China until it has been turned into a pandemic, until it has been declared a pandemic into mid-March. Therefore, team opposition accepted our definitions, accepted the clarification, but they have been debating something else. Even if we weren't debating what they are debating, we were able to refute this, and that is what we are going to see in the 3 points of clash. 3 points of clash today for you, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, brought with the eastern wind. Secondly, Uncle Wang's backyard. And thirdly, like the legend of the Phoenix. I'm going to start with my first point of clash, brought with the eastern wind. No, thank you. On how China was responsible for the epidemic turning into a pandemic. So the opposition came here today saying that the WHO, no, thank you, has also been notified and failed to prevent the virus. Firstly, the first speaker of the opposition failed to understand my point of information due to the fact that China accepted the nature, what does it mean, nature, ladies and gentlemen, that the gravity of the virus in mid-March when it has been turned into a pandemic. Although they told the international community in January that the virus existed from before, from August and from December. COVID-19 is the D from COVID means December. Therefore, they should have told the international community before for the international community to prepare themselves. Furthermore, team opposition said that no, thank you, that everyone is responsible. The third argument of all team opposition has been about everyone and every country being responsible. And we did accept that, but we didn't accept that the other country was responsible for the pandemic, for the epidemic turning into a pandemic due to the fact that we as team proposition came here saying that China was irresponsible with the timing and didn't tell the other countries in order for themselves to prepare for the pandemic, which was to come. Therefore, all the countries were unprepared, such as Italy, such as my second speaker said, Italy or Spain, were unprepared for the pandemic for the epidemic to come and to turn into a pandemic due to the fact that they didn't know of the nature of this illness. Okay, and they didn't just be irresponsible with the timing due to the fact that they closed domestic flights in January but closed international flights in mid-March, but also the Chinese New Year is a 40-day travel season in China, and Chinese people traveled all around the world spreading this epidemic. Therefore, China was responsible for this. They were negligent, and they turned the epidemic into a pandemic due to the fact that they haven't told the international community of the nature and of the gravity of this virus. And furthermore, we told you that by holding them accountable, we would transferring China a sense of responsibility. We would be putting a precedent for responsibility when a country works irresponsibly, and we will be increasing proper handling for future events, and we will be honoring Uncle Ben's quote: "A great power carries a great responsibility," due to the fact that China has a great power, but doesn't have right now a great responsibility. That's why we are applying this motion. Therefore, in this point of flash, we prove that China was responsible for turning the epidemic into a pandemic. I will accept upon information if you have one. Do you have any points?
Yes,
Yes,
you
yes,
mentioned that China did not follow any lockdown distancing rules, when in fact, on January, they closed their airports and did not allow
Right.
for people to leave or nor come in, and they also imposed a
Okay, I
lockdown.
understand
So
your point.
what are you talking about?
Okay. We didn't talk. We already said this. I guess it's a confusion. China closed their domestic flights. They closed their flights inside China, in other words, in January, but they did close the world flights in mid-March. And the 40-day season of the Chinese people who have been traveling all over the world. Therefore, the epidemic has already been passed to other countries which weren't prepared due to the fact that China didn't accept the essence and the nature of this
Point
virus.
of information.
Therefore, I'm going to go, no, thank you. I'm going to go with our second point of flash, Uncle Wong's backyard, on why the international community needs this measure to be carried out. First, the team opposition came here saying that the international community should work in order to make benefits for everyone, something that we too agree as team proposition. And they said that this is everyone's problem and everyone's solution. Okay, it's fine, it's everyone's problem, okay. But the problem is after what we have been debating. We already told you that we have been debating until mid-March, when it has turned into a pandemic, when we have really cleared the pandemic. Therefore, the problem firstly was from China to dispersing this virus into a pandemic, something that we have been debating all over this debate, something that has been clashing. And that you would say that it would make people discriminate Asiatic people. And what we said is that if China this does not have responsibility, that is going to make, no thank you, people discriminate Asiatic people. Furthermore, we as team proposition came here saying the balance of power thing, that due to diplomatic pressures to USA, to Canada, to Australia, which were showing their reluctance to investigate the nature of the virus, China put diplomatic pressures to this country and went against international law when the West was paying attention to their problems with the COVID, such as putting military bases in different parts of Asia, and such as all the Hong Kong problems that we have been living. Therefore, this affects the balance of power between West and East. And furthermore, we said that you should look around you, and you could see that we are debating our final debate virtually. Therefore, China is not only able to pay the price, but also need to pay the price due to the fact that look around you and you are going to see that due to China's irresponsibility and negligence, we are living a nightmare, ladies and gentlemen.
Information.
People are dying day to day. Therefore, no, thank you. China is not only responsible, but also can pay the price, and also is needed. This price is needed due to the fact that people are dying day to day, and I cannot see my grandfather due to the fact that I am afraid that I can make him ill if I see him. And furthermore, we said this is beneficial for China herself. It will restore a damaged image, and that the discrimination against China would decrease instead of increasing, due to the fact that the whole world sees China responsible right now, and sees China as someone who does not carry out the responsibility they do have for this virus. Therefore, in this point of flash, we put the holding China accountable will benefit the international community. And third point of flash, like the legend of the Phoenix, on how all viruses end with beginnings of new viruses, of who was the of the irresponsibility of China in handling the previous viruses and preventing new viruses. So opposition said that no one could see the pandemic coming, which is something not true. The fact that we said that the Asiatic flu and the SARS and many other viruses started in this type of markets, and China should have said this in the past and should have taken measures in order to prevent these viruses to spread in a forthcoming future. And furthermore, they were irresponsible to prevent the virus from spreading from Wuhan to other parts of China, due to the fact that they did a 400,000 people banquet before before people traveling inside China due to the new Chinese year. Therefore, we cannot afford to have an oops, I did it again anymore due to the fact that right now we are living globalization and that this virus is spread much faster than before, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, for all these reasons, we proved our third point of burden of proof. In this point of knowledge, we prove that China is responsible for the outbreak of the pandemic. And for all these reasons, we believe that a peace brings everything but peace. Thank you very much.
Time was 8 minutes and 10 seconds. Judges, ready? I now invite the third speaker for the opposition, Milagros Miguel, to give out her speech.
Thank you very much. Everyone is responsible and no one is to blame. Good afternoon, honorable members of the House. As the third speaker of the opposition team today, we want to ask you a question. Are we looking for solutions or excuses? Are we looking for improving or punishing? The opposition team merely wants you to accept reality and understand its consequences. These years have been chaos, sadness, disasters, and the last thing we need is more tension between countries, more distance, more violence. We have a silent and rapid killer, and if we don't join to find solutions and waste our time pointing fingers, we will only heighten the disaster. I will later move on into the main points of class that have arisen for this very critical debate, but first, it is of paramount importance that we address certain issues voiced by the proposition. Firstly, the proposition team has accused us of entertaining conspiracy theories, but what is actually concerning is taking a very dangerous action without being 100% sure that China is to blame, which has been something that has been stated by the proposition, but say that it is not too crazy to think that they are responsible due to other pandemics and due to their history, but not with 100%.
On that point,
with not a tracing of source. No, thank you. They claim that they only want to focus on the spread of China's actions till March, but essentially they want to be held accountable for the pandemic, which includes everything that has arisen from it. So they are analyzing, no, thank you, not yet. They're analyzing their actions up till March, but what they are holding accountable for is of all the pandemic and all of their consequences, which is quite unfair for the Chinese people and the Chinese government, if you ask us. Our first speaker, secondly, our first speaker agreed with the definition of hold accountable, but she did clarify that holding them accountable of the pandemic is also holding them accountable of the consequences that they involved. Therefore, we're not driving away from the motion, we're not driving away from the definitions proposed, we're merely taking into consideration the motion in itself. Yes, I'll take your point.
He may or he may not clarify something, but he did agree with our definitions. And he did agree with the fact that we're talking about what did China do.
Thank you very much. He agreed with the fact that holding them accountable is making them responsible. And he agreed with the fact that you want to analyze whatever you want to analyze. But if you only take into account what happened between November and March, and you're holding them accountable of the pandemic and of their consequences, you're holding them accountable for something that you're not analyzing. Therefore, the proposition is only explaining how China had certain issues up till March, but are holding them accountable for the pandemic, which involves everything that happened in 2020 and 2019. I'm going to move on to the main points of class. Firstly, no, thank you. Firstly, taking into account that this is a global issue. They mentioned globalization. They mentioned the market. But then they failed to conjoin these two aspects. They failed to take into account that China is a very international market that takes a lot of money from other countries. And
on that point,
these countries now tend to take advantage of the situation in China. So they mentioned the conditions, they mentioned the labor, they mentioned the place, the market, but they did not mention the fact that many other Western countries take advantage of this situation and take economic reminiscence from those situations in China. It's not only a global issue, but a global market that we need to take into account. Yes, I'll take your point.
How exactly would China be affected by giving healthcare products in aid to countries, improving their reputation and having stronger state partners?
We understand the sanctions that you want to take in China, but holding them accountable is also making them responsible of a pandemic that has taken a lot of lives, that has taken a lot of dangerous things in many countries. There was a disaster. Many people died. Many people lost their jobs. There are economic issues in various countries. It is a disaster. So making them accountable of all these consequences, making them accountable of a pandemic that has threatened the world and has divided every one of us, making them accountable is not only giving healthcare sanctions, as we have mentioned in our first argument given by our first speaker. Secondly, they also stated we debated in the consequences of what this decision would bring towards the country. So we mentioned that there would be systematic discrimination, that xenophobia would be increased, because Asian people are going to be targeted thanks to the holding China accountable, which the proposition has not answered. They only talked about economic issues, which we understand are very important. We understand that the payment is very important, but they did not answer our point on how this would divide the world even more. How Asian people would feel discriminated in their workplace, in their lives. Yes, I'll take your point.
The only source discriminating here is China on itself by making illegal.
I take your point, but you are ignoring systematic xenophobia that already exists in the world. You are ignoring everything that happened in this year. You're ignoring that this would only heighten the differences between races, that it would only heighten the difference between ethnicities. So this point has not been answered by the proposition, as any other of our points. They also stated that China would benefit economically for this measure, which are only hypotheses. This is only a way. No, these are only hypotheses. We do not know that they will benefit their economy because certain countries would improve their image. I mean, their image could be improved, or other countries could be mad. I mean, we don't know. This is merely hypothesis. We do not know how to respond to hypotheses honestly, because this is not real issues. This is not a real path to follow. Merely hypothetical analysis.
Before you continue,
they want to hold that. Yes, I take your point.
So aren't you ignoring our dates? Are you ignoring our scientific proof of what's actually happening?
We understand your scientific proof, but you did not refute our points, and the economic benefits that this would bring are very much fallacious, because we are only looking at one side of the coin. We're not looking at how other countries would be benefited. We're not looking at how China would be benefited as well, because there was only one analysis of how their image could be improved, which we do not know for sure. Of course, we do not know for sure. Of course, it is very possible that if they admit to have the fault of a pandemic that has taken a lot of lives and healthcare system, of course, maybe their image will not be improved. I mean, it makes sense. They propose some benefits that clearly do not have a solid base, and they stated that Chinese people should pay the price, that China should pay the price, and we understand, but we do not think that the international community, it is the international community's place to be pointing fingers at a country which involves their people, which involves their institutions, which involves everyone that lives there, to take the responsibility of a pandemic that has affected the whole world. They mentioned globalization various times, which we think is very important for this debate, because as a globalized world, as a conjoined world, we need to be looking for global solutions. We need to join and look for a solution for the COVID. We need to look for a solution for the virus. Be together and find a vaccine. Be together and find policies. We do not need to be pointing fingers. We do not need to separate each other more. We do not need to wash the hands of politics who might take advantage of this situation. We also pointed out that many strong politics from the Western world could take benefit of this situation by using this to point fingers at China and take out the responsibility. By pointing fingers at China, aren't we neglecting the fact that this is a global issue and that everyone is responsible in their own part? We're stating that China is responsible and that should be held accountable, and therefore politicians will be taking their hands off of the situation and will not responsibilize for the things they did. Many countries had their own ways of solving the issue. It is unprecedented times, and China is included in this unprecedented times. But what we have to do is to be responsible. We need to take into account our position and make everything we can to solve this issue, not point fingers and leave it all for China to solve, because this will be impossible. We proved that holding China accountable of this global spread of COVID-19 as the international community is not only unfair, but also a very dangerous move that goes directly against the purpose of the international community, which would do way more good by focusing on solving a global issue in a global manner. So, by all these reasons, we believe that this motion should and will fall, and that the opposition team should and will win. Thank you.
Time was 8 minutes and 36 seconds. I now invite the reply speaker for the opposition, Lucia Ferreira, to give out her speech.
Everyone is responsible and no one is to blame. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will now deliver the reply speech that will have 3 layers of analysis where I will stress how the opposition team has proven why this motion should and will fall. In our first argument, our first speaker explained how the pandemic was an unexpected phenomenon that caught us unprepared. We were drowning in a pool of information, fake news, conspirations, confusion, overwhelm. China, like all of us, was not ready to fight this unknown virus, and it is unfair for us to put all of the accountability on one single country when we were all on the same boat. Moving on to our second argument, we were able as the opposition to prove that holding China accountable would create more harm than good in this situation, incentivizing discrimination against the Asian population. In our third argument, I focused on how holding one single country responsible for a global matter is an absurd response from us as representatives of the international community, bearing in mind that each government and each individual played a part in this situation. Finding someone to blame is easier than taking responsibility for our actions. The proposition has continually been limiting to discuss the spread of the virus, holding accountable a country and judging it for the actions taken in a short period. They are not evaluating the situation as a whole. They are not seeing the bigger picture. They mentioned this globalization, but they are failing to address this as a global issue. They are failing to do so because they are reducing the responsibility to one single country. They claim that China failed to take measures. However, China has in fact prohibited the sales of dogs and other animals for human consumption, which shows they had a willingness to solve this. Because what we need to do is this. We need to solve this. We have to collectively work to change the circumstances, not point fingers at each other. As our third speaker mentioned, these are merely hypothetical analyses based on theories that suggest that it originated in China. We can infer because of the historical background. Let me tell you, this source tracing is a scientific and serious matter that needs to be done, and until it is carried out, there is no evidence enough to claim that the virus originated in there. These are not reasons enough to make a country accountable. They claim that there are these benefits that will arise from this situation, when in fact we have mentioned in multiple occasions all of the consequences that clearly outweigh these supposed benefits. They failed to give a response to our second argument. They completely ignored the systematic discrimination and racism that would arise if the motion were to stand. They are treating this not as an international concern. They are not seeing that each one of us had a part. The third speaker claims that China did not close their airports. They are trying to confuse us by mentioning all of these dates and things, when in fact China did and managed the situation as they thought well, and they behaved like every other country. They are putting all of the blame to China. Don't you think that in fact other countries that knew about this pandemic should have closed their borders as well? Why is it only China's fault? Every country is responsible. You cannot hold only one country responsible for a problem that involves the whole wide world. It is very irresponsible from our part. And also, is the proposition team completely aware that pandemics arise not only from Chinese markets, but from other sources? They kept avoiding all of the information and all of the points we proved, and they failed to refute our points. They keep pointing fingers and not providing a clear solution. If the motion were to stand, they did not even propose a proper model that explained how they would proceed. So for all of these reasons, we believe the motion should fall, and the opposition team should and will win. Thank you very much.
Time was 4 minutes and 21 seconds. I now invite the reply speaker for the proposition, Ian Sang, to give out his speech.
If you believe no debater ever should have to say goodbye to his beloved community from the loneliness of his desk, then today you must vote to hold China accountable for how they reluctantly failed to the international community and failed to their citizens, and vote for the proposition. Today, the proposition has proven to you three main things. A, that China is responsible for the origination of the virus and it turning into a national epidemic. Second, that China is responsible for it turning into a global pandemic, shocking all countries by surprise. Thirdly, and lastly, that this measure brings more harm than good to the international community. Three questions to summarize the debate and prove to you how and why this was the case. Question one, is China responsible for the origination of the virus? Question two, is China responsible for it turning into an epidemic? Question three, will it benefit the international community, including China and the Chinese people living both in China and outside China? So first question, is China responsible for the epidemic? And the answer is yes. The opposition tried to tell us all along the debate that no, because we're all in the same boat and we all have responsibility because we live in a globalized world. Thank you very much for the information. But no, we're not all in the same place because China failed to regulate the markets, that despite knowing the president and all the problems that they brought, and that having pangolins together with bats pooping and peeing together and together with humans bring to all the problems in the human population. How we prove to you how this measure helps future regulation of these markets, not only benefiting the international community, but also the Chinese people having better sanitary protocols and not allowing viruses to spread so rapidly. China is the one that had the markets. China is the one that failed to regulate these practices despite knowing the precedent and how dangerous they were. And this is why China is not in the same place as other countries. But then they tell us that this is not confirmed and there's no enough information and we're just entertaining ourselves with conspiracy theories. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that information checked both by the Chinese government, which they admitted, and the World Health Organization is kind of a confirmation of the source. But even if we did not have enough information, we have proven to you why. This is because China has failed to allow the world to investigate what clearly happened in China. And it's only going to get worse for China if they allow for investigation, if they're denying it in the first place. So is China responsible for the epidemic and the origination of the virus in the first place? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they are. Second question, is China responsible for the epidemic turning into a pandemic? Yes, they also are. They tell us no, because we all can't opposition, no, because we're all surprised and it's the fault of the poor handling of oil countries. But the side of the proposition told you that the international community was surprised, taken by surprise by this virus, and that's why things go out of control in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. And now why did they get out of control? Because China failed in being the dominant and one of the dominant members of the international community by lying to the World Health Organization and saying it was not transmitted through humans and it was not dangerous. Second, but letting their foreign borders open and allowing for trade and travel during the lunar year, with billions flying all the way to Europe and shocking all the countries with a new virus, and also by silencing doctors and not allowing information to spread. And the resolution, ladies and gentlemen, that the first speaker mentioned, would say that China is responsible for the outbreak of the pandemic and it turning into a pandemic. We're setting a clear precedent of no negligence for the future that the opposition completely ignored, and we need this behavior to change with the future if we want China to be one of the brokers and leaders of the international community and international and world order. So third and last question, will it benefit the international community? And the answer is yes. They tell us that division and hate will arise and there will be more division against the Chinese and among nations. And the division will be because the Chinese will be accepting their honest mistake and giving aid to countries help recover. This just sounds ridiculous by the side of the opposition. And we've told you several times down the event that this allows China to turn over the page by giving compensation in healthcare aid, which they have plenty because of their economic and political growth during 2020, to allow their trade partners to be stronger in order to benefit in economic terms and accept their mistake and show that they're honest broker of global order and they are ready to fulfill and play the role the world is giving them right now due to their size. And we also told you that the rest of the international community, which they completely ignored, will also benefit by having more healthcare products to help mitigate the effects of the pandemic that are still going on, and will have more resources in general to mitigate the effect of the pandemic and to bring economic relief. Why were we able to prove all our burdens of proof, ladies and gentlemen? Quite simple. Because if you have peace, you bring everything but peace. Thank you very much.
Time was 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Judges can now go to the breakout room where they will be discussing the briefing and completing their mark sheets. Thank you all very much. debaters should stay here even though you have received a notification to go to a breakout room?
I think some debaters went to the break.
Yes, most of them left.
We're now waiting for the judges to complete their mark sheets and to discuss their briefing so that they can come back for the feedback and to announce the winner of the debate.
The newcomers have arrived.
The panel today was Patrick Cooper from Hong Kong, Raimundo Izaguirre from Chile, Kismine Huich from Sri Lanka, Anne-Sophie Saipekis from Germany, and Anastasia Stupar from Croatia, who was the chief adjudicator of the panel. We're very honored to have these judges today, since this is a grand final from Argentina, but then again, we have judges from all around the world, so this is something quite iconic for Argentina. This doesn't happen every year. Actually, this is one of the first times, if I'm not sure, that this has happened here. So we're very honored to be here. For everyone who's watching from YouTube, you can watch the final from yesterday. That was the Cup Ombú in Spanish, and also you can watch the Acorn Cup. That was the Junior Cup for English, and they are all on YouTube in the channel Argentina Debate, so that you can watch them there. After the judges' briefing, we will also have the awards that will be giving out to the best speakers for the Acorn Cup and the Oak Cup. Thus, that there will be awards giving out not only to the teams who have won or who have been in the first place and the second place for this cup, but also to the best speakers nationally. On our social media, for instance, on Instagram at arc.debate, you can watch everything that we're doing during the whole year, not only the finals, but also different debates that we have been having throughout the year. So if you're interested in that, make sure to go to Instagram. We've got some comments on YouTube from Victoria Lapadula and Rocio, Argentina Debate, Leonardo Pantaleo, all saying congratulations to you all. So congratulations, everyone for both teams for having this debate. It is amazing that you've gotten to this instance in the cup.
Thank you.
We especially thank Ian Garvey, who is following the debate from New York and supporting the teams from so far away. Right now, the panel is deciding who is the winner of the debate and is discussing the feedback for giving out to the teams. Let me remind you that today we have an international panel from all around the world and from different continents. Therefore, this is very new for the Argentina debate because we have never done this before, and thus this is a very special occasion for us to be here and for them to be here also. We'll be waiting a few more minutes for judges to finish their decisions and for them to come back from their breakout rooms. We have just finished the grand final of the World Cup. The motion today was this House, as the international community, would hold China accountable for the COVID-19 pandemic. The proposition was Martin Buber, and the opposition was St. Catherine's Modern School. Now we're waiting for the judges to finish their briefing. Today we had a panel of international judges. We had Patrick Cooper from Hong Kong, Raimundo Izaguirre from Chile, Keith Mina-Hughes from Sri Lanka, Anne-Sophie Saipekis from Germany, and Anastasia Stupar from Croatia. We kindly ask all debaters to keep their cameras on in order to be on the streaming for the families on YouTube and for everyone watching. We would like to congratulate both teams from Martin Buber for starters, Nicole Zielecki, Ian Sang, Ian Levy, and also from St. Catherine's, Marcos Lousao, Lucia Ferreira, and Milagros Miguel. Good job, everyone. Judges have a few minutes left to finish their discussion, and we'll be coming back to the main room now in a few moments so that they will be giving back the feedback. While we wait, debaters, can you tell us a little bit about how it felt debating in virtually? How did it feel this debate? For many of you, I think this is your almost your last debate. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
May I start? I don't know if
Of course.
afterwards. Okay, thanks. I'm not gonna talk just about this year. I'm gonna start with my experience as a debater as a whole. Debating has been an activity, firstly, in order to represent my school. It has been something that we didn't know of. My school, Martin Buber, hasn't been like, really into debating before. We went there, therefore they haven't promoted this activity so hard, and we didn't know what it was. But when we started debating, we got to know an amazing activity that I love. It's like my favorite activity right now. I love doing so. I do it because I like it, because not just because I learn and I get to know amazing people and I get to make uh, really much, a lot of friends, but not just because of that, also because it's like an amazing activity. It makes me think, it makes me speak, it makes me write, it makes me improve myself and compete against myself. It's like you want to improve due to the fact that it's fun to improve. That's something that debating gives you, and also because it makes you get to know amazing people and make a lot of friends, and that this is like the good thing of this community ADA provides us from. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming and see us in this final debate. And if some debater is watching this, I strongly recommend you to keep doing so, because it's amazing and you're gonna like it so much if you keep doing so. Wait.
Thank you, Glenn. Anyone else in a few words can summarize what debate feels like for you or how your experience was?
Sure. I think I love debating. I think it's a place where you grow as a person, you grow as, intellectually, but also personally. So I really think I grew thanks to debating. And the ADA is a wonderful place to meet people and a wonderful place to grow and to learn. And I'm quite emotional because it's my last debate, but I had a lot of fun. I loved it, and I'm going to miss it a lot.
Thank you, Milagros.
Yeah, same thing here. This is also my last debate. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was about to burst into tears before my motivator in the reply speech. This thing as a whole, yesterday I was thinking at night, and I entered this debate in order to have fun, in order to close, let's say, a stage of my life in which I've grown a lot as a human being. Masa can testify what happened back in the final of 2017, I believe. So I've grown a lot as a person. I have improved my rhetoric abilities. I've met wonderful people. I've had the opportunity to travel to other countries and meet wonderful judges, adjudicators, coaches, and debaters from around the world. As Ilan said, if younger debaters are watching this, I know that debating can be daunting sometimes, to put yourself out there, to speak for 8 minutes, to accept point of information, to refute. I know it can be daunting sometimes, especially in times of COVID, where you had to prepare cases, stay at home, you do not have the social part, let's say, but I would say it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth the effort. At the end of the day, you end up smiling and crying before your reply speech, like I did. So I just wanted to congratulate, first of all, the opposition for a wonderful debate, ADA for the tremendous effort they've made this year, and of course my team for having supported me all the time, and my coaches. Just that.
I would also like to say that while I'm on the opposing side of them, because this is my first year as a senior debater, I come from junior, so I have 2 more years to debate. Well, I think they have started with a wonderful year, that we reached the finals, which was something that I really did not expect for my first year. And I can say that debate is an activity that helped me to grow individually, but also gain some skills that I know that I'm going to use in the future, not only, for example, at university, but also for my entire life when I work and my personal relationships. So I think that it's great for everyone to do it, and I As Ilan said, I encourage everyone that is watching this to go start debating if they have not started yet, and or keep debating, because the improvements that you are evident when you start practicing and having these competitions, which are great. And I think it's really fun and amazing to debate.
Yes, this is also my first year as in the debate team. So it's sad that I didn't join sooner, because I'm like this is the last debate I can participate, but it was really fun, and I think it was a challenge on multiple occasions, in some sites or in some specific motions. But I think it was a great experience, and I highly recommend it to anyone watching this.
Well, congratulations to you all. Marcos, to highlight that you're a first year senior and you're here, congratulations for that. And you're very lucky to have 2 more years of secondary debating. But also for those of you who are saying that it's your last debate, etc., let me remind you that it may not be your last debate, because you still have the chance to participate in university debating, and you always can be part of the community, because this is a very wide community. As you know, the people who are organizing it are doing it because they like it, and therefore, if you really like debate, you can always be a part of that. And specifically in universities, you can always continue debating if it's something that you really, really like. So don't worry, it may not be your last debate.
Happy to know that. I'm sorry. Really happy to know that.
Of course. Many universities have, like, not only in the autonomous city, but also in other provinces, including, for instance, Mendoza or Córdoba. Mar del Plata is not another province, but another city. And also we're expanding also to Formosa, etc. Therefore, like, it's a growing community, especially in the universities, and we still have tournaments about that. So if you're more interested in about that, next year you can always join.
So people, I'm going to take this opportunity to congratulate you, because this has been an outstanding debate. Thanks God I'm not judging, because really it must be very hard for judges to make a final decision. I want to tell you that I'm so proud of you. Many of you are people I have known ever since you were juniors. And as Ian said, yes, the growth is incredible. You're mature, you're incredible people. I'm so, so proud to see you debating the way you're doing it. And following what Florencia said about not abandoning debating because we have university debate, I want to add that even those who might travel abroad for their university studies can still join us, because we'll always accept you online, no matter what. We don't know what 2021 will be like. Nobody knows. But anyway, if you are abroad, you'll be accepted anyway, and we don't want you to abandon ADA. We really want you all in. And thank you. All the very best. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So now the panel has returned. I invite Anastasia, if you want to give the feedback.
Yeah. First of all, thank you everybody for a great and a very engaged debate, which we enjoyed listening to. So that's the first order of business. The second is to tell you that we've reached our decision, but it was a split decision. So in a 4-to-1 split, we decided that a side proposition won this round. Okay, good job, everybody. And so now I would like to go into the reasons why the majority of the panel decided that side proposition is the winner in this case. So first of all, what happened is the most important possibly clash in this round, as we've determined, is the question of whether there is something specific about China's role in the pandemic that sets it apart from other countries, even though it's a global pandemic. Is there something to differentiate China and China's responsibility from other countries' responsibilities during this global crisis? And most of the panel felt that side proposition managed to prove that there are several reasons for which China can be held and should be held accountable, and is in fact more responsible than other actors in this global pandemic. Namely, because the virus originated in China, or was first noticed in China, and that China's response in terms of notifying the broader global community of the risks that this virus brings was delayed and should have come sooner. That there's evidence that they knew well before that they actually announced it, that this was shaping up to be a significant issue, that there were medical doctors who were censored and so on. So proposition managed to prove that this was in fact the case, and that China is more responsible than the rest of the world in terms of starting the pandemic. There was also the issue of precedent, where said proposition managed to prove that there were comparable viral breakouts in China since the 60s, and that this happened several times, admittedly on a smaller scale, but that China had some inkling in terms of what they should do in order to prevent these kind of breakouts from happening, and they did not do that. What side opposition missed to do here in order to win this point is to prove that even though it might be the case that there were several viral outbreaks in China in the past, however many that is, 60 years now, the side opposition needed to prove that it was not in fact something that can be compared with the COVID-19 outbreak, which is, to the best of our knowledge, the worst epidemic and the largest epidemic that ever threatened mankind in terms of its reach across the globe. So this never happened before on such a scale, and therefore it is not valid to claim that China could have predicted an event unprecedented in human history. And side opposition did not do this in a sufficient enough manner to win this point over. Another very, very important point in this debate was the question about whether China could have done more to contain the virus, and if so, would this have mattered? Because both sides of the house, even though you guys keep debating about whether China is only responsible for the first 3 months of the pandemic or the rest of the pandemic as well, you guys are all talking about, prop and op alike, about the reach of the pandemic in terms of how is it affecting our lives even now. So this is an important point, and China's responsibility in that sense rests on the consequences the pandemic imposed on the rest of the world. In this sense, side proposition says that China failed to contain the virus, and they knew that the risk was high, so they are to blame for the outbreak. What side opposition missed here as a strategy they could have used to win that point over is that even if China did everything in their power to notify and alert the global community of the risks of the virus, so even if that was possible for them, it very probably still wouldn't have mattered, because what we've been witnessing as a civilization for the past 8 months is that even at the point where global leaders were fully aware of the threats of the virus, so after we've witnessed military trucks driving away corpses in Italy and so on, even then, and even as the scientific evidence accumulated saying that this is a very dangerous virus and that there are very strict epidemiological measures that should be in place, global leaders rejected to a large degree all of these facts and failed to act. If you look at the examples of Sweden or the UK or the US, you can see that even as the evidence mounted, the reaction was not there, and they failed to act according to scientific evidence. So even if China did everything in their power to notify everybody anyway, the outcome would have still been the same, and therefore China cannot be the only one to blame for the results of the pandemic. So given that side proposition managed to show that China did know the risk was high and they did not act when they could have, but acted in fact months later, this point as well ended up on side proposition's side for the majority of the panel. I'd say that's about it.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to congratulate both teams for the debate and also give out a special thank you to the panel for their time to be here, to Patrick Cooper from Hong Kong, Raimundo Izaguirre from Chile, Kithmina Huge from Sri Lanka, Anne-Sophie Saipekis from Germany, and Anastasia Stupar from Croatia, who was the chief adjudicator of the panel. Now, I would like to invite Cristina Massa, President of the Argentine Debating Association, to continue with the prize giving.
Congratulations to everybody. It was an amazing debate, and thank you very much, judges, for cooperating with us. It's a pleasure to look at your faces again after such a long time. We haven't been able to meet as we normally do. Thanks again. Thanks a lot. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the prize giving ceremony of the Argentine Debating Association, ADA. For those who don't know me, I'm Cristina Massa. I'm a co-founder of ADA 23 years ago and president of this association. As I mentioned yesterday in our Spanish Cup prize-giving ceremony, this has been a very tough year for everyone. Difficult and challenging. And today, I want to remark how proud I am of our achievement. 43 schools have participated in debates this year from 5 provinces: Ciudad Autónoma de Buenos Aires Province, Córdoba, Mendoza, and San Juan. There were 401 speakers in total, 67 judges, and 179 debates. Wow! We managed to organize online tournaments in English and Spanish, and as everybody else, we had to adapt ourselves to new technological ways of communication. Once again, let me tell you that this has been possible thanks to the huge effort made by the ADA team that has worked so hard. Our most sincere thanks to Ignacio Cortines Furfaro, Malena Schneider, and Victoria Lapadula. Also, you, dear colleagues, members of the Executive Committee, Mary Mendionde, Delfina Vildosola, Cristina Adrianen, Patricia Urbieta, for all your help and support. We all have other jobs, and it's remarkable how much we manage as a team. On behalf of the ADA, I would very especially like to thank all schools, coaches, parents, and most of all, the debaters. We know very well that you're a group of students who give up time to debate. Congratulations to you all, as you have taken the right choice. And no doubt, you will always benefit. And dear judges from Argentina and all other countries in the world, you deserve a special paragraph in recognition of your invaluable collaboration, because you have volunteered to judge our debates and you have done a fantastic job. Thanks so much. Finally, a short reflection. It is at times like these that we realize how much we need debating. Because as long as there are people like all of us here today that have learned to listen to the opponents, deconstruct arguments, and build up ideas, who are able to risk conflict and confrontation, to listen to new ideas even if they fly in the face of our convictions, then there is hope that you, new generation, will be able to fight for justice and remake this world. Thank you very much. Fine. So, our idea now is to continue with our judges. We had a lot of them cooperating with us, and we would like to mention them all. Our judges for 2020 have been Ailín Mateos, Alejo González Virgili, Gonzalo Álvarez Danielo, Nicolás Seltzer, Peter Vargas, Ezequiel Moliterno, Ignacio Cortines Furfaro, Juan Pablo Larribey, Lucas Reynoso, Agustina Martigarro, Ignacio Agote Robertson, Julia Navarro Goldaraz, Marina Larribey, Martina Robi, Cristian Concina, Florencia Gadea, Florencia Esfara, Francisco Cobos, Javier Hospital, Martina Lanchas, Victoria Lapadula, Alejo Navarro Goldaraz, Carola Niedviecki, Fernando Riva de Quesada, Florencia Corbalán, Julieta Cielecki, Nicolás Ortiguera, Nicolás Perniche, Serena Maquirraín. Es muy larga la lista, denme un segundo para seguirla. Serena Maquirraín, como dije, Andrea Mozas, Bea Avena, Cecilia Wilnick, Constanza Conte, Laila Pokorski, Malena Schneider, Mateo Navarro Goldaraz, Matías Kaplan, Olivia González, Rocío Guajardo, Ryan Gilblad, Sofía Banoli, Verónica Zapata, Agostina Prigioni, Antonella Ferrari, Bautista Sánchez Mariño, Daniela Vitale, Delfina Vildósola, Florencia Gomenzoro, Florencia Luna, Francisco Perniche, Francisco Sánchez, Isabel Escobar, Juan Pablo Dugué, Leonardo Pantaleo, Lucía Salinas, Lucila Jiménez, María Dolapián, Natalia Fasiglione, Pedro Ángela, Santiago del Río, Sebastián Vera, Valentina Bulin y Victoria Bunges. Thank you very much indeed. You have helped us enormously. Besides, I should say that we would like to mention the names of some judges who adjudicated our debates and participated in a large number of debates, both in the ACON and Old Cups. And they will be receiving a gift card. They are, in the second place, Alejo González Virgili, Gonzalo Álvarez Danielo, Nicolás Seltzer, and Pedro Vargas Figueroa. Digital certificates to judges who participated will be sent. And in the first place, Ailín Mateos. Thank you very much indeed for all your invaluable cooperation. So, now we'll go on with our best speakers. And before we start with the list, I would like to tell them all to please turn on your cameras and unmute your microphones if you want to say hello, so that everybody in the audience can see or listen to you. So, as I mention your names, please show up. So, best speakers ACON Cup. In the 10th place, Álvaro Solá Torino, Magdalena Michaud, 6,5 Colegio San Fernando, Álvaro Solá Torino from Colegio Champagnat, Milagros Romero, Colegio ISEL. Yes, we move on.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good, good. Congratulations, people. In the 9th place, Catalina Carvalho, St. Mary of the Hills, Pilar. Inés Mestres, St. Catherine Moorlands, Tortuguitas.
Thank you.
Good. Well done, people. In the 8th place, Manuel Robi, Colegio San Jorge, Pilar Ortiz, Colegio Isei.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. In the 7th place, Tomás Puente, Dover High School.
Thank you.
Good. In the 6th place, Macarena Peris Alonso, Islands International School. Are you there?
Thank you so much.
Good. In the 5th place, Emilia Fidel, Colegio Isei.
Thank you.
In the 4th place, Paz Lago, Colegio San Jorge, and Sofía Robles, Colegio San Jorge.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well done. In the 3rd place, Abril Nealon, Oxford High School, Valentina Macera, Southern Cross School. Are you there? You're not. So we go on with the 2nd place, Isabela Astenza, Colegio Patris.
Thank you very much.
Good job, dear. And in the 1st place, Simón Gambaruta, Northern Schools, Sofía de Pina, St. Catherine Moorland School, Belgrano. A big round of applause for everybody. Good.
Thank you so much.
Sophia couldn't join the Zoom, so she's watching it on YouTube.
Okay, good. Well, congratulations. Good job. Well done. Fine. So we'll move on now to best speakers or cup and the same message. Please show up, open up your cameras and say whatever you want to say. We would love it. Okay. Best speakers or cup. In the 10th place, Carolina Sanchez, Southern International School, Santiago Traini, St. Mary of the Hills, Pilar, Sofía Mitieg, Colegio Tarbut, and having covered the name of the speaker, who is Victoria Hassan, Colegio Tarbut. Sorry. Yes. Are you around?
Thank you.
Hi, thanks.
Thank you.
Congratulations, people. Well done. We move on to the 9th place. Maria Marquez, St. Catherine's Moorlands School, Belgrano. Are you there, Maria? Maybe you are not, but we congratulate you. In the 8th place, Santiago Foster's Northern Schools.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations. In the 7th place, Catalina Díaz, Colegio San Jorge, Clara Vargas, Quilmes High School, Marcos Castella, Northland School.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good, Clara. Good. And in the 6th place, Matilda González, St. Andrews Scott School.
Thank you very much.
Well done. 5th place, Delfina Herrera Pose, All Saints School.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Congratulations. 4th place, Ignacio Ferraro, Dover High School.
Thank you very much.
Well done. In the 3rd place, Juan Batalla, Northlands School.
Yes, thanks.
Well done, dear. 2nd place, Ian Sang, Escuela Martín Buber.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Congratulations. And in the 1st place, Milagros Miguel, St. Catherine's Moorlands School, Tortuguitas. A big round of applause because they are excellent. Good job. Excellent. Now we'll be moving on to regional. Yes. Is there anybody who wanted to say something? No. So we'll carry on with the regional champions now. And they are same thing. When we mention the teams, the message is exactly the same. We would like to be able to look at the members of the teams, and please unmute your microphones, and if you want to say something, we would be very happy to hear and watch you. So let's start with regional champions, Buenos Aires region. So Acon Cup regional champion, Buenos Aires, St. Mary of the Hills, San Fernando. Are you there, people? San Fernando, St. Mary of the Hills. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you very much.
Oak Cup 2020, regional champion Buenos Aires, Escuela Martín Buber.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well done, people. Very good. Now we go on with Mar del Plata region. Regional champions. Acon Cup 2020, regional champion Mar del Plata, Holy Trinity College.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, congratulations. We move on now to OCAP 2020, regional champion Mar del Plata, Holy Mary of the Northern Hills.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Now, Mendoza region, regional champion, Mendoza. Acon Cup 2020, regional champion Mendoza, Colegio San Andrés. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good. Good people. Congratulations. OCAP 2020, regional champion Mendoza, Colegio del Carmen.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Congratulations. Good job.
Thank you.
Now, national champions. Acon Cup National Champion 2020, St. Mary of the Hills, San Fernando.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
We really appreciate it.
Well done. And OCAP National Champion 2020, Escuela Martín Buber.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. A lot of hard work.
Well done, people. Very well deserved. Congratulations. So I would like to mention that we are very happy to have 2 new schools on our lists. And they are St. Philip Apostle from North Buenos Aires and Escuela Santo Domingo de la Sierra, Tandil. If there are any members present, that I suppose there are, we would very much like you to invite, to tell us some words. We're really happy to have you on.
Yeah, I represent, can you listen to me?
Yes, Maria Jose, we can.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. We are really very pleased to be a member this year. This first and challenging year we had to get through, and well, really delighted. We tried to train our students online the way you've been teaching us, but there will be opportunities from next year on to participate and to have really debates, not virtually, right? But in that case, we will work hard to do it and to continue being a member. It's a really pleasure to be there with you.
Thank you very much, Maria Jose. Maria Jose will be more than happy to have you debating with our teams, and it could be hopefully looking at each other in a different condition, but it has to go on online. It'll be online. We enjoy debating anyway. And you're very, very welcome. Is there anybody
Don't doubt
from...
about that.
I'm sure, I'm absolutely sure, and my regards to everybody at Santo Domingo, all the nice people in Tandil. And tell me, is there anybody from St. Philip of Apostle?
Came out ninth out of in the cup, and Sophia did.
Hi, I'm here, Sole, from St. Philip the Apostle College.
Yes, Soledad, very welcome.
Yes, how are you? Well, thank you very much. It's been quite an honor to be part of these competitions. I mean, the experience has really surpassed our expectations. I mean, it was, it's been really a rewarding experience. I mean, for the children, for us, you know, it's like it pushed us all, you know, to move out of our comfort zone, which is, I believe, like the cherry on the cake. I mean, not only did we have to start competing, you know, but also online, and they were able to challenge their fears in connection to public speaking and also debating, challenging their own ideas and beliefs in connection to their own arguments, you know, when it comes to these motions when they don't agree with and they have to defend. So it's been really like a terrific and wonderful experience. We are really looking forward to the upcoming competitions next year. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and of course we look forward to meeting you very soon. Well, we are members of a team, all the team in the same boat, the ADA members. Is there anything missing, anything you would like to add, to say, my dear colleagues? Have we covered everything we had planned? You just let me know.
Just one small thing to all judges and students and schools that have received an award today. You will be receiving in the upcoming days your digital certificates, and the cups, the physical cups, will be shipped to the schools in the upcoming days too. So don't worry, you will receive everything in due time.
Fantastic. So if this is all, thank you very much indeed. It was a real pleasure to be with you throughout this whole year, and hope to meet you very soon. All the very best in your future. For those who are not participating in anymore because they will be in university debate, and for the rest, all the very best, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you next year.
Thank you so much.
Bye, thanks.
Till next year.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.